Welcome to ET with GOTB. It came home this weekend, the egg-shaped ball that is. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Match week 4 done and dusted, so we've had a weekend full of sport, from the Ryder Cup to the Women's World Cup final in the rugby. Pretty cool weekend, and then we had some football thrown into, so just to top it all off.
It's been a long time since I've watched as much telly as I have in the last 3 days.
Well, we were at the rugby, which was incredible.
Yeah, that was really good. So watched 8 hours of golf on Friday to start off with. Went to the Emirates on Saturday for Arsenal against Villa. Then hopped across town for the World Cup final, very, very special. And then went to Brighton on Sunday for the game against Everton. Came home and watched another 6 hours of golf. In between that, I watched about 3 hours of basketball as well. And then I've watched 3 games of football today.
So when I say lots of sport this weekend, literally lots of sport. But congratulations to Red Roses for winning the World Cup. Very, very cool to get to be there live watching a Rugby World Cup final first and foremost. But I know for you, watching England win it in England was pretty special, and the whole occasion and this packed out Twickenham was unbelievable. So that's another very cool memory to add to the list.
Yeah, women's sport is on the up, especially in this country. I think we've seen it across the board that the various federations are putting the funding in and putting the investment in. You played me the interview with one of the rugby players today,
New Zealand
player, who was saying, thanking England for the tournament, but also saying that kind of leading the way. And I think England have done that in not just rugby.
She said women's sport as well.
In football, done it in cricket as well at points. So there are other countries out there doing a lot, don't get me wrong, but I think we can be very proud of where this nation are at in terms of its funding of women's sport at the moment.
I believe cricket is starting, but I know nothing about that.
Tomorrow.
And I'm not going to get into that. I've tried, I've failed. It's not happening. But
starts tomorrow.
I'm sure you'll do well. Okay, so obviously in this week's episode, as always, we will have a quick look at the results in the WSL, the table, the key pointers from the games that happened. We'll do your player of the week. We'll do your standout moment of the week, and we'll add in your team of the week too. Plus, we'll run through the action in the WSL 2, of which there were some interesting results there as well. Before we get going, though, this is your weekly reminder to make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching podcast. Do make sure you're following us across all of our socials as well. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything. I will also say for one last time, well, not last time to say subscribe to Substack, do that anyway, but our September deal is running out.
Finishes tomorrow.
So if you want to avail of that, do that now. Otherwise, you could just sign up anyway. We'd love to have you following us. Okay. WSL results this weekend. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't the most exciting of weekends. Don't come for me, but it wasn't. Arsenal 1, Aston Villa 1, Monaghan and Parker with the goals. Brighton 1, Everton 0. Michelle, do you mind getting on the score sheet there? Liverpool 0, Manchester United 2, Miyazawa and Toon with the goals. Manchester City 4, London City Lionesses 1, Miedema, Blinkhilde Brown, Shaw with the brace, and Nikita Paris getting on the score sheet. Leicester 1, Tottenham 2, Tanberg, Holt and Tierney scoring, and West Ham 0, Chelsea 4. ABJ, JRK, Cuthbert and Captain. I wrote that scoreline backwards. That's what nearly tripped me up. So I was like, West Ham definitely didn't beat Chelsea 4-0. They had a difficult day at the office, to say the least. It does mean that the table looks like this. Chelsea remain unbeaten, winning every game and on maximum points of 12. Manchester United are below on 10. Manchester City and Spurs sit below them on 9 points. Liverpool and West Ham are the only teams yet to get a point on the board, but Liverpool still have that game in hand against Villa they're playing. So West Ham are propping up the table at the moment. Okay, Saturday afternoon. Arsenal 1, Aston Villa 1. Not a hugely exciting game, to be totally honest. Although when the first early goal went in, I thought, gonna have some action. We didn't. And then we had to leave 10 minutes early. So I missed the second goal in the game as well. Early goal and late goal. Arguably a good start from Arsenal. While that goal they scored was a mistake at the back for the defence, I also think that came from their high press. But I kind of backed off a little bit, kind of then lacked intensity.
It went back to the Arsenal of old, I think, and I think partly Villa played very well defensively. I thought Anna Patten was brilliant. Was in the way of everything. They packed the box out when Arsenal advanced. Arsenal had chances though, and they are so guilty at times. It's always been the case with Arsenal of being, trying to get one more touch on the ball, one more opportunity to score the perfect goal, and sometimes you just need to just wallop it, or just hit it when the chance presents itself to you. And I think we saw some of that creeping back in, and it's surprising because under Renee Slegers, that hasn't often been the case. They've been pretty free scoring. They've been able to change games. They've been able to find ways in games, and they have enough creative outlets to be able to switch things up a bit if things aren't going right. But for whatever reason on Saturday, I do think, as I said, a lot of credit needs to go to Natalia Arroyo.
Do you think, because I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but it's something like Renee Slegers has the highest goals scored per game as a manager in the league at the moment, or something along those lines, because they had a number of games where, especially at home, where they were scoring 4 or more. But yeah, it did feel a bit like the Arsenal of old. And you know the way sometimes in training where they're like, okay, you have to pass the ball X amount of times before you can put in the net. It feels like sometimes they're doing that. And it's like, lads, you're not in training anymore. Just shoot. Like, if I'm not even a fan and you're sat there going, just shoot. I find myself at game, not just Arsenal games sometimes, you're just like, oh my God, you find yourself on the sideline going, shoot.
Particularly as the game went on, and I think the problem when you're facing a team like Aston Villa in the way that they're set up, they're very direct. So when they pick you off, they want to hit you straight and go, use that speed that they have. And I thought when Kirsty Hansen came on, she added a lot to the game. Ebony Salmon caused problems in that first half as well, with her pace running straight through. And they did have issues, dealing with that. And I thought Villa managed the game really well. They kept it tight. They went down early. They could have collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've seen so many teams collapse in that moment. You go down a goal early on at the Emirates. And then Arsenal had 2 or 3 chances after that. There was a morning opportunity for a second one, I think.
Oh yeah, they should kind of dive.
Alessia Russo had a big opportunity saved by the keeper. Beth Mead had a chance as well.
Ford.
That was in the second half. But I think immediately, so it could have got worse for Villa, and they gathered themselves. They defended really well, as I said. They protected that kind of 1-0 deficit, and at half-time, then she was able to bring them in, give them a talk, change a couple of personnel. I think Rachel Daly came off, and they looked a lot more. With that pace of Kirsty Hansen down the left-hand side, they were suddenly stretching the play a lot more, and they had their opportunities. And yes, in the second half, I think it was D'Angelo who had a really big save to deny Katie McCabe. Arsenal could and should have won the game, but I think Aston Villa should be given the credit they deserve for the work rate and sticking in it, and just sticking it and find a goal at the 94th minute is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Villa are a team that are always, if you give them a sniff, like if you don't close the door on them, not every team will be able to take advantage of that. They're always in it. And I think we've seen that confidence grow over the last kind of season. After they went through that difficult time, they started to realize, rather than kind of being ahead and ending up with a draw, or being in a draw and ending up with a loss, it's kind of going the other direction. They know they're in it. They know they can score goals against big teams, top teams. And you could see that. They knew that if they kept it tight, that they were always in with a chance of nicking something out of it. And I think when Arsenal play that kind of pass football, it's only going to work if they're doing it at speed. And there wasn't speed, there wasn't intensity. It was quite a slow, kind of flat game. And that kind of play then just doesn't work for them at all. Like, you can get picked off and then it comes to nothing.
And then you have the pace that, troubled them so much at Villa Park at the end of last year. I think Arsenal did perform a lot better defensively. They weren't leaky like at Villa Park. But so they managed that pretty well. And I think Katie Reid had another standout game. But I do think they were just lacking in those offensive areas. Another thing I want to say about Villa is it kind of passes you by sometimes in windows how much they've freshened up the squad, or how much younger the squad is. And I think under Carla Ward, the squad was a really good squad that she built in terms of the quality of players and the calibre of players that she brought in. But they were edging the end of their career. And over the last 2 windows, Aston Villa have started to freshen things up a bit, bring in young players. The fact that she started Lucia Kendall, Missy Beaucairns was captain when Rachel Daly came off at half-time. Rachel Maltby was given the full-back role. you kind of that's a lot of responsibility on young players, especially like Rachel Motley, who's 19 years old, if that.
We saw her at the
I
World
think
under
she's
17s.
maybe she's 18 still.
Yeah.
So she's very young. This is her first, like, she broke out a bit last season, but this is her first proper season in senior football. To be given that responsibility against Arsenal at the Emirates, when like what Emily Fox is running at you, that's quite incredible. Like it's a responsibility to give them. I would say the same for Lucia Kendall. You know, coming up from the Championship, WSL2, joining from Southampton in the summer. This is her first real stab at WSL football, top level football. She has the talent to be there, but it's just I think that's really good that she's giving. And then Ebony Salmon as well.
And I think conversely to some of the reporting out there, that Aston Villa have had another bad start to the season, which I think is wild when you think about the fact that despite the 3-1 loss to Chelsea, they absolutely should have come out of that with something. And then a draw to Brighton and a draw to Arsenal. I think they've actually had a very good start to the season, despite the teams they're playing. And you can really see what they're trying to do. And this draw will give them a huge amount of confidence.
And the draw to Arsenal and Brighton both came away from home.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're good on the road. They're proving solid on the road, and I think that gives them the foundations now to build when they play them at home.
Well done, Villa. Okay, another super exciting game. Brighton 1, Everton 0. Actually, my first point, not the most exciting game. You said this to me early on. You were like, this is a tale of high presses. Both teams are trying to out-press each other. Brighton more effective at it than Everton. Everton kind of leaving gaps. And there's just a bit of a lack of quality about Everton in key moments. And I think that must be quite frustrating from a coaching perspective when you're set up to get yourselves into these opportunities, and then it's the last decision or pass or shot. They're just like lacking a little bit of quality. It must be very frustrating.
Yeah, I think Brighton have Everton's number. I think they've won the last 4.
Last season, they won for the first time both games.
But I think they've won the last 4 against Brian Sorensen's team. So they have their number in that respect. It wasn't a great game. It was actually pretty even in terms of like possession, chances created, all of that stuff. But I think the problem with Brian Sorensen and Everton at the moment is they're still like they're moving parts every single game. And I think he just needs to come to the decision of what to stick with. And I understand like shifting things around for different opponents, but when you compare it, so last week he went with the width of Tony Payne, and Kelly Gaga, she wasn't available, she has a concussion, so that may have come into it a little bit more. But this time around against Brighton, he went quite narrow. He compacted the middle of the pitch.
Yeah,
it left the wide areas pretty open, so that when Brighton picked them off in with their presses and could turn them over, and especially like the fullbacks get quite high, especially on the left side. Maz was getting caught quite high a lot. So in behind her, Kiko Seko was having fun coming in. I think he switched it up. He realised that, and they got a lot more width in the second half. Karen Holmgaard came on, gave a bit more stability. But it was just the fact that he has to keep changing these
Dare
things in
I
games.
say, he has too many options, which perhaps we're not used to. He's not used to having the last couple of seasons. He's been so slimmed down of a squad where he's been putting players out of position because it's the only choice he has. And now he's just like, it's almost like he doesn't know what the best 11 is because he keeps changing them.
I do think Gaga would have been a good option if she'd been available. And the problem is they don't have another striker like her. Obviously, Orne has done brilliant things since she's come in. She's very young, but she's a different kind of forward, I think. So I think she was actually a really big miss. And it, like, you will look at the 3 straight defeats and go, yikes. But I do think there are positive things in each of the performances that they've had that they can build on. They just need to start finding a way to mesh the pieces together.
And they not comfortably, but they did win their opening game with a comfortable scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, they played really bad.
I know, but the point is they've got 3 points on the board. So I don't want any of this starting.
No. I'm not even.
Don't even
thinking about that. But I mean, they do need to figure out.
Yeah.
They have the thing now is the pieces are there. They just need to figure out how to put them together.
Perhaps Brighton's not Brighton's best performance, I would say, but Michelle Adjumang getting off the mark, which I feel like too much pressure's been put on her after the Euros, and a lot of the headlines has been about the Euros hero finally scores a goal, blah, blah, blah. She didn't, she played a big part, but she didn't play a lot of minutes at the Euros. So this idea that there's this big, massive pressure on her is ridiculous.
But this is the problem with football, is that someone does something brilliant across a period and immediately that is expected of them full stop.
Well, it was like everyone
And-
saying start Adjumang and Kelly, and you're like, you're missing the point that their impact is off the bench.
The best thing that could have happened to Michelle was this loan move back to Brighton this season. She is learning how to become a 90-minute player, and before that she was a 10-minute player, 5-minute player. Come on, make an impact. Have an impact, because she's that kind of player. But if she wants a longer, like a career that really has an impact, full stop, she needs to be playing 90 minutes, and she wasn't going to get that at Arsenal this season. So this was the best move for her. The fact that she's been given the number 9 shirt and that responsibility. She's played almost every minute of the league games
and looks good. Looks frightening.
Good. She was so like
Seika, Fran, they all link up really well together.
She was so good on Sunday. Not just with that kind of instinctive finish in the box, but her presence in the box caused problems. She's dropping deeper to pick up the ball and impact play from deeper, so others can run to create space for the runners in behind her. So, and then she's really good defensively as well. So I think across the board she's performing really well. She has the highest XG of any striker in the league, I think, or one of the highest. And it was only Sunday that she managed to convert, but that shows that she's in those spaces, and she's got that confidence to be in those spaces.
Yeah, and I think we've talked before about strikers just getting that first goal, just getting it out the way, and not having that I need to get my first goal hanging off them. So that's done now.
You can see that as well.
Yeah, and I just think it's the same. I thought Kiko Seika had a very good game, getting into really good positions. Fran Kirby's experience and quality in the position she plays, where she finds those players and she finds those moments, and she's in spaces in the box, and maybe not always getting the ball to feet where she wants it, but you can see all those parts are clicking in together, and they do look.
I thought Maisie Simons as well.
Yeah,
she's just looking so comfortable in that leadership role.
Am I right in thinking Madison Haley's injured?
Yeah.
Okay, because beginning of the season she looked really lively as well as that front three looked.
But it's given Rosa Kafaji an opportunity to come into the team, and she's performing well as well. Really funny assist, I have to say, really, really funny.
Okay, next up, Liverpool 0, Manchester United 2. First thing I've written down is Miyazawa goal, a beaut. It was an absolute peach of a goal. Well deserved. I thought United started very well. Probably could have scored more, and I think before they got their second goal. I do think the second goal then coming in injury time will have been a sucker punch, because Liverpool were down the other end. They had corners. They looked a little bit threatening. They hit the post at one point, and that was all happening in injury time. And then they ended up back down the other end and conceding. And that was, that's a big blow.
It's the same old story, and we'll come on to it later, about teams having opportunities and not taking the opportunities against the bigger teams. And then the bigger teams go, they
take their opportunities.
Not bigger teams. I don't mean as big ones bigger, but the ones who have, been at the upper end of the table, they go and take their opportunities when they fall to them. And it made it pretty comfortable at halftime. They were really good in that first half. They dropped off a fair bit in the second half.
Skinner called for ruthlessness, but I don't know.
The officers seem to have.
I feel like maybe he told Sky that, but he didn't tell the team that inside, and that's why they shouldn't do halftime interviews.
Yeah,
he should be saying that inside.
But I think the first half performance was really, really good. I think we've said it every week. Depth is a problem. They had 4 outfield players on the bench, and that's going to become problematic when we start getting into European football that starts next week. So there is a worry there. They started with Rolfo at left back, which we know she can do. She did it for Barcelona for years, but when you're kind of looking at a thin squad, that is a question mark. I thought the midfield duo of Julia Ziotti and Hinata Miyazawa was so good. The way that they pressed, the way their energy and everything, they really formed the foundations for this United team to go and be able to do what they do.
I've been really impressed with Rolfo, Zigiotti and Park. They've turned into very good signings. They've slotted in really well. Mm-hmm. They're kind of a really nice addition to the squad. Jess Park looks brilliant in that position. Zigiotti too. We're seeing more of Rolfo, and she's got the versatility as well, which is an added weapon. So I think those three are
quality signings in the summer. Yeah. They just needed 4 more of them.
No, I know, but I'm just saying
that level of signing.
Yeah, I just think they have been good signings and they are doing very well. Conversely, Liverpool really struggling to kind of get anything out of possession, get anything out of the shots they create. I think they've scored 1 goal so far this season.
I think he made the right move in bringing Mia Enderby on at half time. she offered a different kind of threat. She's got pace, she can run in behind, and she can stretch the play. And they did actually have, I think, the better in some, for a lot of the second half. They were in control of the ball. They were creating chances. Cornelia Kipox came very, very close. She should have hit it on target. At least Mia Enderby hit the post. So they had opportunities. I do think they are a different outfit without Marie Herbinger. She's out, and you can tell she's always been like that energy force in the midfield.
Yeah.
Like that midfield trio of Sam Kerr, Fukunaganu, and Herbinger have always like been that energy of the team. And when you kind of take her out of it, it's a bit different. So there were some positive signs, but I think their overall creativity is a problem.
This is the thing I was saying to you, where I thought maybe, last week we had the Subway League Cup kick-off, and I thought perhaps teams like Liverpool, Everton, West Ham, who've been struggling in front of goal, and arguably they would play slightly different teams, but if they got a couple of goals in, it might kind of lift that pressure off them and go, we can score, we can put the ball in the back of the net. And Liverpool did have a good week in the League Cup that just hasn't translated back across. And I appreciate it's a higher level playing against Manchester United, but when you're creating the chances, there's, arguably should be going at least on target.
Yeah, but I think the problem is you're creating way more chances in those games than you're on.
I just thought it might give them a bit more confidence in front of goal, but it inevitably didn't.
I think it's hard. And Man United have Chelsea next. That's going to be really interesting on Friday to see how they get on with that, because Chelsea have been able to tinker a lot and rotate a lot. It's a really stark comparison between the two sides.
So interesting because, Manchester United have really been, got into the Champions League, and it's a real okay, here you go, let's live with the Champions League then, having to play Arsenal after playing Bran, having to play Chelsea and then go and play their first Champions League game. It's a real, you're in it now kind of thing.
The schedule is going to be brutal for them.
It is, and I think they, initially did quite well, having to have that big game against Bran and then come and get a point with Arsenal, hosting Arsenal at home. I thought they did very well. So they'll have to lean on those kind of experiences going into this one. Other side of Manchester City, 4-1 against London City Lionesses. Comfortable enough in the end for Manchester City, but I did think London City were unlucky maybe not to get more goals in the first half. They caused some problems, particularly in the first half. City are missing a few players to injury already, which is a bit of a concern. Benny, Hemp, Carolyn, for just an example of the type of players missing, but I think they'll be pleased to have scored the number of goals that they scored.
They look really strong in attacking areas.
They do.
And they just Bunny Shaw got 2 penalties, scored 2 penalties. She actually played really well, I think, in terms of her, both her out of possession play, but also, the way that she was linking up play and she was constantly involved in everything, She just isn't quite there in front of goal at the moment. So I think those 2 penalties, especially after missing one the week before, will have done the world of good, and it won't be long before we start seeing her score from open play, that's for sure. But the pieces are starting to come together in that attacking sense. I do think London City played pretty well. They try to be a bit more, I think they had something like 45% possession or something like that. They're trying to be a bit more in possession of the ball. He wasn't afraid to kind of go at City, which is a brave decision, because you would almost expect a new team in the league to kind of want to sit back a bit and, absorb the pressure and try and hit them. Whereas I think they were pushing up the pitch. They were trying to be progressive.
I said this to you because I think the commentary were kind of almost surprised that London City weren't sitting back. And I was saying to you, this isn't a team that has just come up from the Championship with primarily Championship experienced players. The reason they've brought in the players they've brought in is because they don't want to come up and just sit back and try and hit teams on the counter. They brought in players who want to play football, and what they're still trying to build is those relationships and the kind of style of play. But those players aren't going to go, oh yeah, we'll just bank up and hope to hit them on the break. They have enough experience in them to want to be playing football.
Yeah, that's why I say it's brave that you're doing that, because I think in your first encounters against every opposition in the WSL, there might be an inclination to try and shore things up and keep things tight. And they haven't been doing that. And that's been leading to these kind of heavy scorelines against the top teams. But I think in every game they've come out of, there will be things that Jocelyn can take.
He said that, didn't he? He said they're improving in areas in each game.
And they're looking a bit more cohesive. They had their chances. Nikita Paris scored again.
Could have had more.
Izzy Goodwin looked pretty good. She went with that audacious one from distance. That kind of just shows the confidence that she has. So I think, there's a lot to build on. But I think Manchester City, they do look very, very good, especially offensively at the moment.
They can score as well from all over the pitch, which I think is not a weight off, but just particularly for Bunny Shaw, who might be getting frustrated that she's not necessarily putting away every chance, it will come, but also then knowing that like other players in and around from midfield, from sometimes, I don't know, Kasparai getting goals, for example, you know, Miedema scoring, it does take the weight off a little bit. And that's what makes City more of a threat as well, is that you don't know where the goals can come from potentially. So in the end, a comfortable win for them. Okay, Leicester 1, Tottenham 2. Tottenham marching on, arguably maybe doing better than a lot of us thought. Definitely quite a cohesive team, which is something I said could be a benefit. At the beginning of the season, you know, we were worried that they hadn't opened the checkbook, they hadn't brought in very many players. You know, Martin Ho had kind of come in quite late, so maybe didn't have the opportunity to bring in players he wanted, you know, and I was like, maybe they can draw on that bit of consistency, the fact that they know each other, that there's a bit of a cohesive team there, you know, and we are kind of seeing a little bit of that from them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I think it's more like the tactics have been on point.
Yes, obviously tactics are good too, but I do think it helps.
Yeah,
that the team
they know each other well, and that is good. I do think down the line they are going to need a couple of extra
100%
quality players. That's how you drive any team forward, and you need to keep adding. I think Tamberg was a brilliant addition, scoring again. Olivia Holt looks to be, you know, sparkling at the moment. She's having fun. She scored that wonder goal against City, I think.
We asked her about her, did she have like personal goals? And she said she like about scoring goals, but she wouldn't tell us what they were. And we were like, okay, well, if we ask her at the end of the season, I feel like she's ticking them all.
But yeah, no, so the forward line looked pretty good. The press was on point. I think Evelina Sumanen was at the heart of it all in terms of, you know, triggering it, and with that energy in that midfield area. I will just say I have put her in my team of the week, but I was contemplating not, because I did think the antics around Tierney's goal were just
silly stuff. Don't be doing that.
But then I decided she had too good a performance not to.
Yeah, don't be trying to get someone sent off by pretending you've been hit in the face. That was silly. That was embarrassing.
But Leicester, I think Leicester was starting to like creep up in the possession stats.
Mm-hmm.
They got like 45.
Sorry, did you hear
Chelsea?
that? That was my ankle. Okay, you might not hear that through the microphone, but I heard
it. So they got 45 something against Chelsea last week. They got more or less, maybe a bit higher against Tottenham.
They were 42 against Chelsea.
42 impressive. And so 45 this week. That's where I'm getting confused. But they are up in their confidence in the ball, and I think that's something that Rick Passmore said to you before the game, is that they do rely on the foundations of what they've done over the last year or so in terms of that defensive work, and now they're starting to figure out how to work the in possession stuff, and you're starting to see that. And I think they had a really good second half.
Yeah,
they kind of went toe to toe with Tottenham in the second half. They probably could have had, Hannah Kane was pretty bright as well. Could have had another goal. So I think there are positive signs. There's all hope is not lost at Leicester, I think.
No, I'm intrigued for both of those teams come January to see what extra spice they might.
But also so important for Tottenham to make it back, to pick themselves up after that loss last week, because you could easily see how it can knock things
off track.
You get yourself into a bit of a rut, and then you're suddenly spiraling. And because it's not so far away history that happened last season, there's always a worry. So to get back on track straight away is really positive.
Speaking of spiraling, West Ham 0, Chelsea 4. West Ham demonstrating perhaps the worst possible way to start a game against Chelsea. Would that be fair to say? 15 minutes in, 3-0 down to
yeah. I would just say that they did have 2 big chances before that.
Before the first Chelsea goal.
Asai had, and I think this is showing where this is nothing to take. This doesn't take away from Chelsea's performance. They were very good, and I think they didn't get out of third gear at times. But I do think their defence is a weakness at the moment. And in the first 5 minutes, West Ham were showing that they were. Asai was dropping off her marker, finding the space, and quickly on the counter attack. And she should have, really made at least one of those shots go on target, or go in the back of the net. So they'll be ruining that. And they were in the game, but then, just madness descended, in terms of defensive work was ridiculous. 3 goals in 7 minutes. The first one, yes, it's a foul. You shouldn't be doing those in those areas, but you also probably don't expect Beaver Jones to step up.
What a goal.
put that in the back of the net.
Go back, and if you haven't seen it already, go and have a look at that free kick. She scored in the four consecutive games for Chelsea now. The last player to do that was Aggie Beever-Jones back in 2023. But she's also the first player, I might be getting this wrong. No, has scored in 5 WSL games consecutively now. That includes the last one last season. But she's the first Chelsea player to score 4 goals in their 4 opening games, score in every opening game.
She's on fire,
She's doing great. Bloody hell. And that was an unreal goal. Now she's adding that to her locker as well. She can take those free kicks. Like, seriously.
We were going to talk about this later. But so yes, silly place to give a free kick away, but you don't always see those go in. I think the other 2 goals, just like, I don't know what they were doing defensively. It was just they were backing up and backing off. The first one, there are 2 defenders around Vika Captain, and she manages to cut the ball back in the box. And you're just like, how is she getting the ball past 2 of them? And the Erin Cuthbert goal, they literally just like...
Erin said it. She was asked about it post-match, and she was like, well, I looked up and all the defenders were backing off, so I just carried on. Like, you don't give Erin Cuthbert can score from 35 yards out.
It was just like so panicked about like going and getting like in a duel with them or a tackle. And they just gave them so much space. And then, once you go down to 10, you don't have hope in hell.
It was almost like when sometimes a scary thing happens to teams that are kind of learning a new style and committing to a new style, they just panic and revert back to whatever it was they used to do, where it's like, and you could see it with some of the defending, to just hoof it out. When you're like, you actually had time to take a touch and look up and find a pass, but no, hoof it out, give them possession kind of within 20 yards of your box.
Pull the hair.
Oh my God, like that was, this red card for the hair pull was just like such a stupid, I don't know what you were thinking.
I was watching it today, and it wasn't even like, she did go for the shirt initially, I think, but then she carried on and went back, and then she like properly
That's what I was saying to you.
And like, we all know that as soon as you pull someone's hair, you can't be doing that in football. It's a red card any day of the week, anytime you grab the hair. We've seen it enough in like the men's game with Cucurella, in the women's game with Hendrick at the Euros. Like, it's an immediate red card.
And it was so blatant.
Doubt about it. And when you watch it again and again on replay, you see how blatant it was. And it's just, I just really wish, I know it's a heat of the moment thing, but I really wish I knew what went through people's minds.
Yeah. No, but I think what I was going to say about Chelsea as well is that I think it was Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, perhaps it was her and Carla Ward talking about the Arsenal-Aston Villa game. And she was like, in that moment when Arsenal get the early goal, you expect a team like that to smell blood and to go for it, and they didn't. Chelsea are the type of team that will go, they're shaken, put the foot down, put the game to bed within bloody 10 minutes. Like, ridiculous like that. And that's the champion mindset.
But like, so they played pretty well yesterday, but I think everyone would like associate it with Chelsea. Erin Cuthbert said it afterwards, they haven't been playing particularly well this season. I think actually the game against City, they played very well. But the other 2 games, they've been a bit offbeat, especially like against Leicester. I think they were a bit off colour. They haven't been quite clicking. So you see in those opportunities to know, but they just are so clinical in those moments and so ruthless. They can just smell, as you say, the kind of opportunity to get in and really go for the jugular, and they did that.
It's just not a team you can have that many mistakes in such a short space of time against. You will not get away with it. And to be fair to West Ham, I actually thought they did well when they went 3-0 down. They held on for quite a long time, and I imagine made it more difficult for Chelsea than, being down a player. They did still go forward. They did still try and create and get ahead and get forward with Vivian Essay. I still reject a lot of people saying, I can't see what West Ham are trying to do. They have zero identity. I just completely disagree with that narrative.
I think it's so hard in a game like that when everything goes out the window very quickly.
Yeah.
I think you could see in the opening 5 minutes what they're trying to do. Then they fall apart like that and they go down to 10, and then you're never going to be able to see what they can do in that game, that circumstance. I think we saw enough against Arsenal to know that they can. Even against Brighton, it was a heavy defeat, but they performed pretty well in the second half.
And I asked Ryan Skinner about this And she was like, we're not putting together 90-minute performances. And I think that was a bit of something that happened last season as well. And they started to put together those 90-minute performances towards the latter stages of the season. But, it's just, as we said, such an unforgiving league. And if you're coming up against a team like Chelsea and you can't put together a 90-minute performance, you're going to get battered, frankly. And Chelsea were deserved winners in that game. And actually, I think not that they necessarily needed a confidence boost, but I think a game like that where they can flex their muscles, I think will give them, do the world a good.
Like Sonia was talking about how she was trying different things. And she said that last weekend against Leicester, she's tinkering a bit, and that's probably not helping the cohesion at times. Thompson and JRK were playing wing backs. They're sort of moving the pieces around, giving people minutes, getting different people involved, and it probably doesn't help. But the ultimate goal will be that they'll get there. They've got good enough players to get there.
And they're still getting 3 points on the board.
They're just trying different things.
They're without Lucy Bronze, they're without LJ. Sam Kerr's not fully back to full 90 minutes, etc. So the fact that they can tinker and still be coming away with wins, that's all that matters. Okay, moving on to your player of the week, please.
I'm going to go with Hinata Miyazawa because I thought she was superb. Ran the show from the midfield against Liverpool. And she's obviously building, as we said before, building up that nice relationship with Giulia Ziggiotti in the middle of the park. I think it's for her, she joined Man United after that World Cup where she won the Golden Boot. Her career at United kind of stuttered. She couldn't quite get in the team. She couldn't, nail down a spot. But I think she's really come into her now, and she's almost made herself pretty undroppable by Mark Skinner.
Okay, let's move on then quickly to standout moment. Now,
so
you said this earlier that you were going to give it to this person, and you're not actually. You have a different one. So I'm glad that we spoke about ABJ's free kick anyway.
You've actually written down Lucy Parker's free kick because we were talking about both things.
Oh, that's why I wrote down Lucy Parker's free kick. This is why you were umming and ahhing about this.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a football moment and a non-football moment.
Oh God, okay. It's going to be so easy to clip up for social media. Go on.
No, but you can just clip up the football moment.
Can I?
Because I think Lucy Parker's goal at the end was it was 94th minute. The instinctiveness of the finish to react to the second ball just showed everyone in the stadium felt it was coming, I think, at that point in time. But it just kind of the icing on the cake of a good performance. To get that point at the Emirates is huge. Give them loads of confidence. My non-football thing, because I'm just celebrating women's sport here, is being in Twickenham, watching Ellie Kildan score that try. And seeing it live. There are some players in all sports that are just magic when you watch them, and it gives there's this aura about them. And she's one of them.
Do you know where I was when that was happening?
Buying me a beer.
No, I was trying to find her Guinness.
Oh, you were
in
at
Twickenham.
Guinness, weren't you?
I went to 3 different bars on 3 different floors. I ended up outside in that little bit on the outside, just trying to find somewhere for Guinness, and I couldn't. We ended up having to drink Asahi, and I missed that try. Okay, let's move on to your team of the week. Come on.
Okay, my team of the week is in goal. I have Sabrina D'Angelo. Right back, Kirsten Kasparai, assisted Viv's goal.
I think that's the second week in a row, is it?
Yeah. Anna Patton at centre back. I thought she was brilliant for Villa. Caitlin Hayes also. She was controlled every single area threat that Everton tried to put into the box. Amanda Nilden for Tottenham at left back. Miyazawa in the centre of the park alongside Evelina Sumanen. I've got Olivia Holt in front of her. And then these aren't quite in position, but I wanted
people
to
will
fit
be
them in the
raging.
team. And then I've got Michelle Jemang on the right, Bunny Shaw up front, and Vika Captain on the left.
Okay.
Do with that what you will.
That's what you wanted. Don't go at us for that. But do let us know who would be in your team of the week. It is often a struggle. We've got sometimes a player in, then we'll take a player out, and it can be difficult, but only 11 spots, so.
This one was actually easier than most weeks.
Well, there you are now. Okay, let's quickly move on to WSL 2 results. Bristol City 1, Nottingham Forest 2, Sheffield United 1, Birmingham City 2, Newcastle United 0, Charlton 1, Ipswich 3, Portsmouth 2, Southampton 1, Sunderland 1, Durham 1, Crystal Palace 1. It means that Birmingham are still on top with 10 points, with Charlton below on the same but an inferior goal difference. Sunderland are in third place on 8 points, and both Nottingham Forest and Bristol City are on 6 points. Sheffield United sit bottom of the table on 1 point, with Portsmouth above them on 3. So a good week for promoted teams.
Yes.
Well done. Any other business?
Also, it's nice for Ipswich to get that early win.
Yes.
No, when we think about like Portsmouth last year,
Mhm.
they were waiting quite late for a
Yes.
win.
I feel like every week I was
And
like,
it was
Portsmouth
like,
are still
it's
the
so hard to get yourself momentum. And they made a good escape from it, but I think Ipswich that will do them the world
Yeah.
good.
Any other business?
I don't think so.
Okay. Coming up for us this week, we are going to the Northwest again. May as well bloody live there at this rate. Manchester City versus Arsenal. We're doing that on Friday night. Then we're going to do Manchester United versus
The
Chelsea
other way around.
on Saturday.
And
Is it?
United Chelsea on Friday. Man City Arsenal on Saturday.
I don't think it is.
It is.
Well, they're the games we're doing. And then we're going to come down and do Leicester Everton at King Power on Sunday.
Yes.
Okay. I'll let you be right on camera so that you can feel good about yourself.
On Saturday, Manchester United Arsenal Friday. Chelsea on Friday.
Feel better now?
Yes.
Cool. There you go. Sophie's right. Don't forget to subscribe and follow wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. Otherwise, we will chat to you all very soon.